Mr. Qiriazi. Le invito a que suba al escenario porque ahora va a participar usted en un diálogo con también Mrs. Bárbara Wasson y el señor Ismael Peña López. Os pido un aplauso, ahora os presento a Ismael, un aplauso para los tres. ¿Me suben al escenario, por favor? Come on. Ismael Peña López es doctor en Sociedad de la Información y del Conocimiento, es el director de la Escuela de Administración Pública de Cataluña, de la Generalitat de Cataluña. Con anterioridad ha sido director general de Participación Ciutadana y Processos Electorals de la Generalitat y profesor de la Universitat Oberta de Cataluña en los estudios de Derecho y Ciencias Políticas, investigador senior en Open Evidence y director de Innovación Abierta de la Fundación Jaume Bofill. Es el editor de ICTlogy y se ha especializado en el impacto en las tecnologías de la información y la comunicación en el desarrollo. A continuación, siguiendo el hilo de las ponencias que acabamos de escuchar, van a conversar sobre la regulación aprobada sobre la inteligencia artificial en el Consejo de Europa, el plan de políticas europeas planteadas para el 2030, así como en las herramientas y también soluciones que se están desarrollando desde el Consejo para apoyar a los profesionales de la educación. Ismael, un placer saludarte.
Gràcies.
I endavant amb el diàleg. Gràcies.
Molt bé, bon dia a tothom. Buenos días, bons dies, egunon. Good morning. Well, we're going to talk about all these things, but I really would like it to put it on the ground. So I'm going to explain what's going to happen in the following days, at least at home, and I think that maybe you will share this vision. Tomorrow I will tell my wife I listened to two guys that were very, very cool. They were great, and she will say, "Darling, it's 3 a.m. Can we please sleep?" This weekend I will download all your PDFs and I will read them and I will note them, and my children will say, "Daddy, are you working on a weekend?" I would say, "Your dad is a weirdo. He actually doesn't think this is work." I actually enjoy it a lot. And on Monday or Tuesday I will meet with the school that I work with, which is actually the School for Public Administration. And with my colleagues, we will decide what we're going to do with all these things that you explained. We will not know what to do. My colleagues will say, "Well, what will we do?" And I will say, "We do something. We should do something." And then we will meet with the Director General and with some of the firms, the EdTech firms that are working in the field, and we are working with them. And we will not have any key where to start. So we put 2 bombs under your seat so you cannot escape if you don't provide a very concrete answer to the things that I'm going to try to ask you. I know it's complicated, so please be bold. We will discount the things that are out of context or that cannot be generalized. We are able to do that. Now I'm going serious. But I really, really, really would like you to all these things that you projected, and I think that we all share that there's a risk, and sometimes you want to burn all the EdTech firms, sometimes you want to burn all the teachers and the educators. Normally you always want to burn the administration. I'm part of it, trust me on that. But what do we do on Monday or on Tuesday? So what do we begin with? The day that we meet with the Director General and some of the guys at the EdTech sector and the guys that are managers or educators, where do we start from? Do we have to write a plan, a strategic plan, a theory of change? If you're there in our meeting, what is the 1 or 2 things that say, first of all, you have to do this? What do we have to do? Barbara, please.
Yeah.
Remember, there's a bomb under your seat.
Exactly. I can draw on the experience we had in Norway where we had this expert commission. I think that you need to, if you're thinking school, it's different. Are you thinking about long-term? So are you thinking about making it secure and trustworthy to use these kinds of systems in schools? I think you have to push your governments to bring together all the actors that you've named. We did that. We had the part I didn't get to talk about. We had people. We had researchers. We had people representing the directorates from the ministry. We had teachers. We had privacy officers that work with the regulations and whether you can use data, etc. We had and we had lawyers involved, to have a dialogue about how you can work together to make it safe in your country to use the regulations. Because as I mentioned, you have to look at your own laws, and we found out our laws were not good enough, and they were not safe enough for, say, the EdTech sector to jump in and start using the data that can give us lots of opportunities. There are good uses of data that they can do, but they were afraid to do it because they were afraid to jump into it. So I think as a school, in order to say that, yes, we want to have safe tools to use in the schools, push the governments to do this. We got feedback from all actors, from parents, from teacher associations, from the EdTech sector. Everybody was engaged in this process, looking to see the reports that would come out and the recommendations we made to the government. So we ask for partnerships and way to work together. We ask for new laws to make it clearer as to whether data can be used or not. We ask for competence development across the sector. We ask for money for supporting these kinds of processes, etc. So I would do that, one thing.
Okay.
You asked for two.
How much do
Let's
you
see
agree on that?
Yeah. From I mean, of course, I come from an international organization.
Yeah.
So you heard about the mission, etc. But I would say that when you start, from scratch,
Yeah.
first of all, you need at school level, at region level, at city level, at national level, to be clear what kind of quality you need for education and for the future of your students. And then you need to define it together. You need, clear definitions and parameters that for this quality that you need. Generally, in European context, etc., we talk a lot about quality, but and also in national context, but very often nobody defines the quality. So when it comes to technology, innovation, change, etc., you need to go back to the basic, and the basic is define the quality of your education at national, at local, or school level. And then this is not done alone in an office, as Barbara said, is done through dialogue, and then all stakeholders together in order to have a common understanding what we are talking about. And so this is the first element. Of course, when it comes to quality, it's not only in the Council of Europe, also for many, many years, when it comes to when we discussed about children, rights, etc., we were in a position of protection. But it's not only that dimension that is important. The other dimension, empowerment, is also very much important. And then you cannot do empowerment without experimenting, without changing, without introducing innovation, and also technologies, etc. I mean, but then you need also a kind of virtuous cycle. You need to introduce, be clear what you want, introduce innovation, but then also evaluate innovation and go back to the first step that you had. And I would say everybody needs to start from there.
Well, first of all, thank you, because I think you really did very well the homework that I put, which is great. You also sent us back homework. To summarize, so we take all stakeholders. In our case, it's not families, because our grown-ups in my school, but let's say children, families, the firms, the government, of course, the educators and the managers. We sit and think, what for? So it's about quality education. It's about what kind of impact do we want, considering that the impact of education is one of the several rights that we have to take care about, and not have an imbalance of the different rights that are at stake, but that we have to do some steps forward. So we have some technologies that have an impact. So we define the impact, we define the quality, we define what rights we have to protect. But this will surely change how we are organized at schools, at centers, our relationship with the administration and the firms, the architecture. I think that you said that, Barbara. I don't know if it's now when we were talking before, the architecture of education or educational institutions hasn't changed in centuries, so it should maybe be changing. How do we make this maybe a design, or where do we win with changing the organization? And I'm not talking about who we had to hire. You talk about the empowerment of students, that's a change of how classes happen, if there has to be any classes. So first we have an agreement on the impact. Second, do we have to change the institution of learning or teaching to be able to prepare it for this impact, for this technology to enter the class? Now, if you want, now Villano, please.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to when it comes to change from the perspective that we have agreed upon or discussed also, I mean, the same type of questions that you are asking now, they are a kind of priorities in change. And then what we see as a big, let's say, resistance to change is an overloaded curriculum and a very rigid curriculum in schools, and for the education, generally speaking, in all European countries. So with this permanent innovation in science, progress, etc., how much we can stick to the same type of curriculum? Should the curriculum be adaptable? Should the curriculum be flexible? Should the curriculum follow the innovation, or be changed every 5 years or every 10 years? Can we work for 10 years with the same curriculum? Nowadays, it looks impossible. So this is a first very concrete element, the relationship of all the different actors towards the curriculum that we have in our school systems. And then the second is our classrooms are conducive to learning and to respond to the quality parameters that we have defined at the first stage. So how the learning environments today are being organized or are going to be organized in the near future. For example, if you take the example of history, teaching or learning as a subject, can we still teach and learn history and take the attention or the curiosity of all the children with only textbooks? It's impossible nowadays. So we need also to think about the learning environment as a second important element. And then the third, and that is crucial, is the teacher. So without quality teacher, you cannot have quality education at all. And you cannot introduce change, you cannot innovate, you cannot, empower neither the students. And then the fourth is related to more autonomy and also personalized learning, why not? Autonomy for the learners himself. So the way also we learn, we don't need anymore to have this huge encyclopedic kind of knowledge in our heads anymore. So it's more related on learning how to learn rather than accumulating knowledge and knowledge in the classroom, and trying, to make all the children to memorize this learning. So these four elements that I mentioned are crucial to introduce change and to favor innovative ways in the education systems.
Before you have your chance, let me add a corollary or a derivative of what I just asked. There's some guys here that are putting lots of money in their technology, and I don't know if it's that flexible. I mean, the book is not flexible, but some of the investments we've seen in EdTech require that we spend ages using these sort of learning resources, digital learning resources, to pay back the huge investment, but because it's really, really expensive. So what about, I mean, not only, but also think about the flexibility, not of the curriculum, not of the book, but of the huge investment. What's the advice to these guys that are investing money and you're saying that, but it should be flexible enough next year, not to be constraining the change. Barbara, please, and if you want to take me back afterwards.
Yeah. Can I go back to your first question and then come to this one? And the other one I think we need to look at is we need to look at teacher education. Because if we're not teaching in the way we think teachers should be teaching in the schools, then what are we modeling? So we have to, I mean, we still have programs in Norway where they're not learning about how to use technology in classrooms. How can that be when you go out? And we hear the schools saying that the teachers coming out of the teacher education programs are not prepared for the digital classroom. They're not prepared to have students working at different levels. Before you used to say, open your math book to page 35 and continue working. Now you can't do that because people are, you know, in very many different places. The students are all working on their own, and that's a very different kind of management that you have to have as a teacher. So I think we also have to work at that. But I think a lot of it has to do with, I mean, it's very, we even know in Europe there's many different ways to tackle these things. When it comes to using particular tools in schools, France is very centralized, Netherlands as well. In Norway, it's more at the municipality level, what they make available to the schools, etc. So, I mean, you have to understand how your school board or your school district is working in that way. And as for the EdTech, I think I know there is a big desire within the EdTech community to work together with researchers to try to get good results. It's a long process, as you say. It takes a long time to develop the tools. We have to look at better ways to do these kinds of, I mean, there's looking at things about having test beds, about how to do that. And I know the work that's going on quality work in education is going to require that they can show evidence. And there is some good work going on in different groups around what do we mean by evidence. It's not necessarily just the learning outcome. It can be the process that you're working, that kind of thing as well. So I don't know. It's really hard to give the industry security about how to do it. But I think that's for me why, when I look at our perspective in Norway, to give them the security that they can use the data in order to improve the products or to provide analytics for teachers and things like this. This is really important for them so they know that they can do it without breaking the laws.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to EdTech, there are several issues, etc. When I had a chance this morning to discuss or to see with and interact with some of them, so one good thing is that almost all, let's say, innovative tools and other pedagogical resources are based on competencies. So more and more education systems are orienting their policy towards competence-based education in all our member states almost. So we have moved a little bit far away from the traditional way of teaching and learning. Many of them are cross or transversal or cross-disciplinary or interdisciplinary topics, etc. So this is another advantage for also how to design, etc. When it comes to the education process itself, more and more learners outside of the classroom are having more autonomy, because the area where the teacher was the owner of the knowledge and it was only the transmission from the teacher to the students, it's not anymore, reality. So big tech, but also other tech companies have also a role in the development, a co-production of knowledge and learning in our societies today. So it's not anymore a prerogative of the school only. So individually, many students, many learners, etc. And the qualifications that we receive at the end of a cycle are not there forever. So it's also the lifelong learning perspective that is more and more developed. You have also a session on micro-credentials, and there is a lot of discussions around how to recognize the qualifications that students receive through micro-credentials for the market, but also across countries. This is the, let's say, the dimensions that we see in the Council of Europe, because why? For more mobility, et cetera, et cetera. So also the way of learning is more as a journey rather than, you know, a kind of static period. I study and then I work. It doesn't function anymore like this. So having said that, for EdTech companies should, you know, have all these elements in mind. Another element that is, I mean, for an organization like mine is important is the preservation and the, let's say, the further development of the linguistic diversity of European countries, regions, but also the preservation and the enhancement of the cultural diversity of Europe. So, and then one of my, let's say, ambitions or dreams, etc., is also how to achieve a kind of schemes of co-production among countries and among EdTech companies, that the resources that they produce or develop for a given country should be easily contextualized and introduced in other countries. We know very well that in Europe, the economic development of countries is not the same. You have very, let's say, countries with a very poor economic developments, and then other countries that are very strong and have all the capacities to innovate and to produce and develop such resources. But what kind of Europe we are going to have in the 10 years to come? How these resources, shall we accept that, let's say, the big tech, Google, let's say Microsoft, etc., produce one single resource to be used everywhere in all the countries? And so what kind of students will have? Can we do this for history teaching? If we say that multi-perspectivity in history is one of the key concepts of learning and teaching history, can we produce one single resource that will have what kind of, let's say, perspectivity? The perspectivity of the Google producer in US or UK or elsewhere for all the countries in Europe? So these are some questions that we ask when we interact with EdTech companies and their representatives. But of course, then it's also the questions of partnerships with public and private, because those that have the, let's say, the financial possibilities, they can individually, after, you know, the, let's say, formal classes, can pay for their children to be connected to online resources, etc. But if we say that quality education should be for all and not child left behind, then the public authorities have the duty to secure part of the funding and the budgets for EdTech companies to contribute to education as a common public good that should remain as such. And in that sense, EdTech companies cannot pay everything themselves. I mean, there is a need for strong cooperation and co-funding, either at local or national, but also at European level, I would say.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I think one thing, if you look at who the customer of the EdTech companies are, it's traditionally, if you thought about it, for schools, but it's actually, if you look in the US, it's parents. Parents are investing in these tools outside of school for their children to use them as well. So this is also something that we see happening. I don't know so much of it being in Europe, but at least the US, it's a big trend as well.
You raised two big, huge issues that we have to close in 3 minutes. I won't take any questions from you, I'm sorry, but because I want to make these two questions. Actually, it's the same question, but I will split it in two. On the one hand, you said, well, we said We have to sit all the stakeholders in the same room, agree on what is the impact we want to make. If the impact is on improving education and not harming others, other rights. The teacher is the center because he's the more flexible and really can make it change things around him. So we have to empower him. And in bringing more knowledge is not only technology, but first part of the question, EdTech firms should provide, it's an interpretation, maybe you did not say that exactly, but should provide not only technology, but everything that comes with it, which is knowledge, capacity building, etc. So being able to know what is the purpose of the technology, and if people are not equipped with the knowledge or with the practice, EdTech firms should also bring that, which one interpretation is, so who is educating the educators? It's technology. I'm just playing the evil part, but that's one of the conclusions that sometimes one reads. And the second one is maybe to avoid this interpretation, the public interest should step in, not only funding, not only as a watchdog, but being a first actor, a first-person actor, being an entrepreneur in the center of Matsukato, if you want, saying, okay, I am a real actor and I want to take the sector, not only the education sector, but the private sector, I want to drive it to the place that I want to. So in half a minute each, assuming that there's a goodwill, which I assume it myself, in the private sector, in education, besides some exceptions, of course, but assuming there's a goodwill and a good intentions in the private sector, how do we make this triangle between the educators that need to be expert in something that they're not, which is this new technology, because it goes very far, and how do we make the public sector enter the space without putting out the private sector, so without making them out of the market, but providing this guarantee, as you said, this common infrastructure for the common good. I know it's tough in half a minute.
I think we have to remember that the teacher is the one in the classroom, and you have to develop tools that are desirable for the teacher to use and help her or him to do their job in a good way and to help the students learn. So I think the teacher absolutely has to be in the picture for it. It's a hard problem, and I don't think there's solutions. You know, the Netherlands has invested over 80 million euros in a new center led by Inge Muller that is looking at EdTech together with schools, together with researchers. It's driven by the researchers, but it's bringing them in. 80 million euros, it's a lot of money. And the money is not coming from the education department, it's actually coming from industry and finance, because they want to make a better EdTech sector. So we can ask, you can invite her here next year, ask her to talk about how they're doing it in Netherlands. It'll be interesting to see, but it's large amounts of money that need to support everybody together. And we have to find out how to do this collaboration, in my opinion.
Yeah, from my side, I would say more to give a much more autonomy to the learners, and for them to be able to empower them to be able to design their own learning, and then use the classroom, use the teacher, and use freely also what the EdTech companies offers. More and more students are already acting like this. They have a multiplication of primary learning resources that they find not only in libraries, not only in the classroom, but also outside through EdTech companies, etc. So a greater autonomy and for the learners, and the empowerment of the learners would be also, from my side, from my opinion, would be a key element for successful future education with EdTech. Otherwise, I mean, it seems that the learner as a consumer or should decide, etc. But I'm convinced that the learners should have much more autonomy and freedom with regard to the learning pathways that they have right now.
Okay, so the public sector helping the private sector, helping the teachers to make the students more empowered and more free. Sounds a good plan to me. I think it's back to basics, but in a good sense. No, I mean, sometimes we miss what we came here for. Thank you very much. It was very useful to me as someone that has some decision-making to do next week. So thank you very much for your very concise answers. Hope you enjoyed it too. And please hound them in the aisles for more information about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.